Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Friday, I hope you all are doing well. This is a live stream that I did not expect to be doing last night when we sat down and spoke about Everton's managerial search. Farhad Moshiri, Everton owner Farhad Moshiri, has finally come out and communicated with Evertonians. He has wrote a statement on EvertonFC.com and finally used his own football club, which has had its own media team since the day he walked into the club, to actually communicate with us. He hasn't gone through Jim White. Jim White's currently sat on TalkSport with Simon Jordan, absolutely furious that Farhad hasn't dropped him a little text before releasing this statement with some inside information. He's actually gone through the official Everton website. He's actually spoken to us. He's addressed the managerial situation, obviously, with the Rafa Benitez sacking and the search for a new manager. He's addressed the stadium. He's addressed the performances on the pitch, and he is also committed to increasing his shares at the football club and turning a loan into equity for £100 million, I believe, which will help further Everton's transfer budget, and I think the money will also be used for the stadium as well. So before we get into reading the whole statement, and it is quite a lengthy statement, and we're going to go through it all and try and unpick as much of it as possible, let's just talk about the fact that this statement has been released in the first place. Now, whatever we feel about the actual content of the statement in itself and whether or not we agree with Farhad Moshiri, and look, typically a lot of the statements is stuff that, we would like to hear and you would expect to hear from the owner. Ultimately he's not going to come out and say, listen, I don't want to listen to any Evertonian, I don't really care what any Evertonian says, I'm just going to listen to me mates that are in, that are agents that are feeding me these, people left, right and centre that are going to cost me a load of money and aren't really going to do a decent job. He's obviously going to come out and talk about, what's best for the football club and being committed to the football club, etc. So before we get into any of the content and whether or not we agree with this, what the content of the statement, or whether or not we're happy with the content of the statement, that's one thing. Another thing completely is, appreciating or I suppose, applauding maybe the fact that Everton have finally come out and Farhad Moshiri has finally come out and, communicated with us as Evertonians. I specifically, and I know a lot of Blues have as well, but I specifically have sat on this channel a number of times over the last few weeks, months, even years, and absolutely criticised the club, to the hilt for their lack of communication, and specifically criticised the owner for his lack of communication as well, and his decision to make various baffling decisions that have massive impacts on the future of our football club and not come out and talk about any of them, and not actually come out and address any of them in any great detail. And I've been very, very critical of the owner for doing that. I've been very, very critical of the owner for not coming out and not talking to us as fans. I've been very critical of the owner for going on the likes of TalkSport and Sky Sports and various different media means and feeding those people information, which, ultimately gets back to us when somebody listens to that show, rather than just coming out and talking to us as a fan base, talking to us like adults, sitting down and saying, listen, this is the situation with the club. Whether we like what he's saying or not, we should hope that the owner has enough respect for Evertonians to come out and talk to us directly as the fans of this football club, as the heart of this football club, as this football club. If there wasn't an Evertonian on the planet, then there wouldn't be Everton Football Club. If we weren't here, then the club wouldn't exist. So that's one thing I do want to say before we get into reading the statement, is I do think we've got to, maybe not applaud it, because, a lot of people would argue that this should have been done a long time ago, and I agree, I absolutely agree, spot on, but, I appreciate that finally the club are starting to communicate, and the owner has actually understood the importance of communicating with fans, and for a club the size of Everton, this shouldn't be a topic, and for a club the size of Everton, this shouldn't even be a conversation, but it is, because of how badly Everton have failed to communicate with us over the future of the football club, managerial appointments. It would have been ideal for Farhad Moshiri to release a similar statement to this one in the summer, when he was just about to appoint Rafa Benitez, explaining that decision and the reasons and the rationale behind that one. But he didn't. That was only, we only heard from the owner once the decision had been made. So, as I said, I think first and foremost, before we get into the statement and the content of the statement and whether or not we agree with it or don't agree with it, I think it's important to, sort of accept and appreciate the fact that Farhad Moshiri has finally decided to sit down with Everton and have this conversation and talk to us as fans, because it's what we've been craving. You know, we had Frank on a couple of days ago, and as he says with the TPC communication campaign, it's not about Everton winning the league every year. It's not about Everton winning the Champions League. It's about us being treated like fans. It's about us being treated in the right way possible. And the minimum Everton can do is come out and explain certain decisions. The minimum Farhad Moshiri can do is come out and talk to us as fans. And he hadn't done that previously. And there'd been a lot of criticism from Evertonians, including myself, as to why he hadn't done that and what, you know, what the reasoning for going to the likes of TalkSport and Sky Sports and stuff like that is. So, you know, finally we've heard from Farhad Moshiri himself. Finally he sat down and actually, you know, released a statement himself, and as I said, that's a step in the right direction. Regardless of the content of the statement at the moment, it's a step in the right direction that, you know, we've actually heard directly from the owner. But anyway, let's get into the statement, because that's what matters, isn't it? That's what matters. If you are watching live, by the way, do get your thoughts in the live comments as we go on. As I said, quite a lengthy statement, so we're going to read it all, and then we're going to try and unpick the bones of it as well. If you're enjoying, as I said, please hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. That will only take a second. And if you want to share the stream to get as many people involved as possible, please do that as well. Anyway, let's get in to the statement. So the statement starts by saying, "Dear Evertonians, it has been a difficult season to date, with results not meeting the expectations of anyone associated with the club. As a result, a decision was taken last weekend to part ways with Rafa Benitez as our manager." No problem with that. Again, he's right that you know, the results haven't been good enough, the performances haven't been good enough, and Rafa Benitez needed to leave the club. Probably should have left the club, you know, beforehand, but regardless, that decision was taken. The owner then goes on to say, "After a very disappointing run of results, it was the right decision for the club, although it is never one that is taken lightly. As we prepare for our forthcoming games, we have a fiercely passionate Evertonian in Duncan Ferguson taking charge of the team on an interim basis. He is a remarkable man, and I know he will give his all in leading the team, as he did so impressively during his spell as caretaker boss in December 2019. Now, again, Farhad, you know, sort of I suppose acknowledging Duncan Ferguson and Duncan Ferguson's commitment to Everton, and Duncan Ferguson's commitment to stepping in and helping Everton, but also acknowledging the success Duncan Ferguson had, albeit, you know, obviously a very, very short period of success when he took over as interim prior to Carlo Ancelotti's appointment, of course. So that's really, really important, because the owner's coming out and acknowledging that the last time Duncan took charge of the side, that it was a good period, and you know, we played well for those games that Dunk was in charge for. The owner then goes on to say, "I understand the frustration felt by everybody who loves Everton because of our inconsistent form in recent seasons, despite significant investments in the playing squad. Yes, the money that has been spent since 2016, not just on the playing squad, but also on key projects, including our new stadium, demonstrates my commitment to Everton." So a little bit of looking after himself there, a little bit of, you know, there was a report in the news and a couple of news articles over the last week or so, and people have been speculating about whether Farhad Moshiri is truly committed to Everton and whether he actually really cares about this football club, or whether or not it's just sort of a playtime for him. So again, I feel like that's a little bit defensive from Farhad Moshiri, but I've got no problem with that. You know, I've got no problem with the owner coming out and saying, "I'm absolutely committed to Everton." That's what we want to hear. You know, imagine it said, "I'm not really committed to Everton, I just like pissing about because it gives me something fun to do in my spare time." So again, no problem with that. He says, "I write to you to assure you that my commitment remains strong and focused. The club has announced today the conversion of a £100 million loan to the club into equity, which is a clear demonstration of my commitment and greatly strengthens the balance sheet, i.e. helps us massively with the financial fair play situation, and therefore should help us in bringing in some new players, having a little bit more wriggle room in terms of spending money," which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. As we saw in the summer when we only had £1.5 million to spend, we brought in Damari Gray for that price, and for such little money, Damari Gray has turned out to be one of the best signings Everton have made in recent years. I know we've spent a little bit in January already on Mikalenko and Patterson, and they look like signings that could potentially be, you know, really good players for the future. But let's hope that, you know, an injection of another £100 million to potentially spend on transfers isn't a guaranteed positive, is it? When the owner himself admits that we've spent 600 million, 500 million on transfers in the last 5-6 years, and we're in a relegation battle. So, you know, but anyway, As he says, he has the club has announced a conversion of £100 million loan to the club into equity, which is clear demonstration of my commitment and greatly strengthens the balance sheet. He said, I am a private man and I do not speak public very often, but I promise you that my determination to deliver for Everton will not waver. Now, that is something that, again, I take a little bit of sort of problem with, because I've got no problem with Farhad Moshiri being a private man and not necessarily speaking in public. Nobody is asking, and I'm certainly not asking for Farhad Moshiri to, sit down every 10 minutes and talk to us, or every time we lose, come out and address the fans, or every time the manager makes a bad decision, come out and sack him. We're not looking for that. And Farhad Moshiri can be a very private man, that's absolutely fair enough. You don't really hear Roman Abramovich talking an awful lot in the media. You don't really hear Liverpool's owners or Manchester City's owners coming and talking an awful lot in the media. That's fine, I understand that completely, and I appreciate that completely as well. What I take problem with is if you're that much of a private man and you don't really speak openly, then you shouldn't be running to the likes of Jim White at TalkSport or your agents in football and, speaking to them about certain things regarding the club, and then that getting out through the natural mean of word of mouth, when you're a very private man and don't really speak openly. If that's fine, then why are you texting in? Maybe Farhad Moshiri's texting to Jim White under confidence, expecting Jim White to maybe not read those statements out on TalkSport, and Jim White has done that in, anyway. Who knows? But again, as I said, I've got no problem with Farhad Moshiri being a private man. I've got no problem with Farhad Moshiri not necessarily coming out an awful lot in the public and talking. But the reality is, as an owner of a football club, his duty, at least every now and then, once or twice, 3 times a season, is to come out and address us. You can be a very private man. No one's asking you to go into your private information. No one's asking you what you have for tea, or how your kids are, or what your wife, how your wife is, or where you're going on holiday. No one's asking that. We're asking you to come out and address the football club, which is very public. The football club isn't private. When we're at Goodison Park every week watching this club, it's not a private matter. It's very public. We're in the public eye. The media are talking about us. The national media are talking about us daily. It's not a private matter. It's nothing to do with your private life. And if you're not wanting to come out and speak publicly often, that's fine. But don't contradict yourself and come out and speak to other means of media and then say, well, I haven't been on here because I don't really like to, I'm a private man. Well, why are you texting Jim White? Anyway, as I said, we digress. We'll move on. He says the strategic football review that is currently ongoing will ensure we have the best model in place moving forward. I am working closely with the chairman and the board as part of that strategic review, and I can assure you that the recruitment process for a new manager is aligned to that. It is vital we appoint a manager who fits the structure we are putting in place, and so, whilst we are keen to make an appointment as quickly as possible, we will work together to ensure it is the right candidate to deliver the success we all crave. Now, that is, again, a very positive statement. I don't think anybody could sit here and say that is negative. I'm not saying that we can't be worried about it, but in itself, pardon me, that sentence there, that paragraph there, is very sort of it's very positive. It's good to hear him coming out and saying that it is vital we appoint a manager who fits the structure we are putting in place. Now, again, as I've said previously, the board of a football club who are in this situation, that have put us in this situation, doing a strategic review of themselves, isn't necessarily the best idea, in my opinion. I don't think Everton's board should be doing a strategic review of Everton. I think somebody from the outside should be coming in and doing a strategic review of Everton. Therefore, if, let's say, Bill Kenwright isn't up to task, or let's say Denise Barrett-Baxendale isn't up for task, for argument's sake, those outside people can come in and say, I've got no affiliation with Everton, I've got no affiliation with these people, they're not up for the job, they're not doing the job rightly, so, ultimately, they either need moving on, or, this club isn't going to progress. The club in itself, i.e. Bill Kenwright, doing a strategic review of the failures that he has caused over the years, isn't going to end, let's be honest, in Bill Kenwright saying, maybe I'm the problem. It's going to end in other things, or other people getting the blame because Bill Kenwright doesn't want to blame himself, or Denise Barrett-Baxendale doesn't want to blame himself. Again, I'm not saying that either of these people are wrong, but let's be honest, they are, because the club is in this situation. Farhad Moshiri being a part of that isn't going to end in Farhad Moshiri saying, maybe I need to stop listening to agents and giving people jobs on the basis that they're a big name, and actually start giving people jobs on the basis that they're, a right fit for the club. And in what Farhad Moshiri's saying is very positive, and we can only take this on a base level, and that's what is coming out of his mouth. And what is coming out of his mouth is, it is vital we appoint a manager who fits the structure of this football club. Now, at the moment, we haven't got a structure at the football club. We've just sacked the director of football. We've got no manager. The head of recruitment left not long ago as well. We've got no medical staff. We haven't got a structure at all at the football club. But if the structure that Farhad Moshiri wants to go with is that of a director of football, and it's just that Marcel Brands wasn't deemed good enough and they're still looking to bring in somebody else, you know, again, we've heard Dan Ashworth mentioned recently, which would be absolutely unbelievable. And if Farhad Moshiri's game is, or end game, or certainly is idea for Everton in the coming years is to bring in somebody like a Dan Ashworth and Graham Potter. Joe says, thumbs in your DMs, Cam. Thank you very much, my mate. Really appreciate it. Then that's great. That's absolutely great. But ultimately, saying that it is vital that we bring in a manager that fits the structure is the right thing to say. Of course it is. But doing it is completely different. As I said before, Farhad Moshiri was never going to come out and say, it is vital that I bring in a manager who I've been told is dead good by one of my agent mates, by Kia Abachan or somebody else, and who isn't really good, but because I've been told he's good, I'm going to bring him in, and that's absolutely vital. He's not going to come out and say that, is he? Because he knows that would cause absolute uproar, and he probably knows deep down in himself that that's not the right thing to do, and that way of running a business will never ever work, and it's no way to run a business. But ultimately, actions speak louder than words. And whilst Farhad Moshiri's words in this whole statement seem very, very good and very promising and very, very exciting, and statements like it is vital that we bring in a manager that suits the structure of the football club can be deemed as a very promising statement. As I said, the structure of the football club at the moment is an absolute shit show. It's a circus. It's a mess. So is that why we're looking at Roberto Martinez? Because he fits the structure of the current football club, which is an absolute fucking mess? I don't know, maybe. But if that assumption is the structure of the football club is going to be put in place and it's going to be a director of football and we're going to aim for this and we're going to aim for that, then the manager has to go out, the owner has to go out and prove that he can put in a manager who fits the structure of the football club. He can put in a manager who fits what Everton wants, and he isn't going to listen to his mates in football agency or his mates in the media and bring in somebody that doesn't fit the structure at all. But is that a massive name? Because if you look at our recent managerial appointments, Marcel Brands signed a new contract at Everton not so long ago. Carlo Ancelotti left in the summer. Everton had ample opportunity then to bring in a manager who fit the structure of the football club. We had the director of football in place. What we thought of him, whether we liked him or not, is irrelevant at the moment. We had the director of football in place, and it was, Farhad Moshiri had the chance to go and appoint somebody like a Graham Potter or somebody like that, or a Galtier who had worked with the director of football before, who fit the structure of Everton. Both managers, I think, would have taken the Everton job in the summer, Potter and Galtier. But he didn't. He went on and brought in Rafa Benitez, who has notoriously had a past of falling out with various different people within football clubs, players, owners, directors of football, and has got a history of doing that. And he went in and brought him in on the basis that he was a big name, and that when he sits around the table with his billionaire mates, they'll all go, oh my God, look at how great Everton are. They've got Rafa Benitez as the manager. So it's all about actions and not words. And Farhad Moshiri's words in that sentence there, which is really important sentence, it's vital that we bring in a manager that suits the structure of the football club. As I said, I hope he's not referring to the current structure, because the current structure is a circus. So that would be somebody like Martinez, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. I assume he's referring to what the structure of the club wants to be, which may be a new director of football, which may be, aiming to be in Europe in the next few years. That's fine. But he has to prove that he can make that decision then. This is all on Farhad Moshiri to prove that when Kia Abachan and other people go into his ear and say, forget Graham Potter, he's not a big name. Forget Galtier, he's not a big name. We've got Jose Mourinho here, or we've got this manager or that manager who's probably not going to really be successful, but people will go, wow, you're managed by that manager. He needs to be able to turn around to those people and say, no, I'm not interested, mate. We're going for the best man for the job, not the biggest name. Because that's what Everton need. And that's what Everton have needed for years. And that's where Everton have failed. Going for the biggest name, both with management and with players, rather than the best person for the job. I'd rather have a centre midfielder from the Championship who nobody's ever heard of, who's the best player for the job, than a centre midfielder who's played in the Champions League for the last 8 seasons, who would come in and just, again, take his money, not really care, not really perform, and then leave after 3 years, a massive failure. And I think every Evertonian would agree with that as well. Let's further go on to the statement then. So as I said, just to read that last paragraph out for us to to recap, he said, the strategic review that is currently ongoing will ensure we have the best model in place moving forward. I am working closely with the chairman and the board as part of the strategic review, and I can assure you that the recruitment process for a new manager is aligned to that. It is vital we appoint a manager who fits the structure we are putting in place, and so whilst we are keen to make an appointment quickly as possible, we will work together to ensure it is the right candidate to deliver the success we all crave. So there you go. He then went on to say, I have the utmost faith and respect in the board, and I work incredibly well with them. The experience and knowledge of our chairman blends perfectly with his vision and the leadership of Denise, our CEO. He is respected across football, not only as an expert in player trade and negotiations, skills that have been put to good use already this month with 3 signings, but for the unwavering commitment and guidance he has given to Everton over so many years. There is no one working harder to bring success and happiness back to the club. Judging by the fact that it seems Bill Kenwright was very adamant to bring Farhad Moshiri back to the club, I would disagree massively with that statement from Farhad Moshiri, but there you go. He also said the boardroom also boosts the financial acumen of one of the most respected financial directors in football in Grant Ingles, and the recent addition of the football and expertise provided by a true Everton legend in Graham Sharp completes a robust and well-balanced team that leads by example in all areas of our operation. As always in business, we will not stand still and will continue driving forward for the benefit of the club. The expertise of our senior leaders have been undeniably demonstrated in the past 18 months by the huge strides taken in delivering our new stadium on the banks of the Mersey, despite the many challenges posted by the pandemic. In the coming weeks and months, our new stadium will begin to rise from Bramley-Moore dock as we maintain our progress as part of the 3-year build schedule. The board and the club's executive leadership team will deliver a home befitting our club's incredibly passionate fan base. A new home, indeed, the passion that is always demonstrated very clearly by our fans is something I value and understand. Fans are the lifeblood of the club, and only by working together can we deliver success we are all long for. With that in mind, I am fully supportive of the board and our CEO. I'm fully supportive of the work the board and our CEO are doing in conjunction with key fan groups to put in place a fan advisory board with representatives at board level. The club is moving forward with its discussions with fan groups to ensure the voice of all, and that is capitalised, A-double-L, capitalised, all Evertonians can be heard through a robust structure for the club. We will also introduce a series of regular events that will be accessible to all fans, enabling open and clear dialogue with club senior leaders. He then says further updates on these important matters will be provided by our CEO in the weeks and months ahead. In the meantime, I thank you for your ongoing support. It is truly appreciated. Thank you, Farhad Moshiri. So as I said, I suppose that the big positive is that we've actually heard from Farhad Moshiri. We've actually had some communication from the football club, and that is a massive positive because that's something that we have all spoken, I think, so openly about, or certainly a lot of Evertonians have spoken so openly about having a problem with over the last few weeks and months. If you're enjoying, by the way, if you could hit that like button, that'd be amazing. 129 people watching. If you could get the likes up, that'd be absolutely fantastic. The rest of that statement is very defensive of the board, very defensive of Bill Kenwright and Denise Barrett-Baxendale, and himself, really, in saying, nobody wants as much success for Everton as I do. And I do take issue with it. If I'm being honest, I do take issue with it because it for me, almost seems like it's Farhad Moshiri sort of saying, or maybe indicating that there's no problem at board level. There's no problem with how we run the club. It's more that we're changing how we run the club, and that, it's a problem with manager and not bringing the right manager in. Now, for all we know, Farhad Moshiri could, go with this, with this strategic review, complete it, and we could have a whole new style, whole new way of playing. And part of that strategic review might be that he gets involved less and that he allows people to do their jobs. Because as I said, we were linked with Dan Ashworth a couple of days ago, who's the I don't think that his official title is Director of Football, but he's effectively the Director of Football at Brighton, and he would be an unbelievable appointment if he could bring him in, but it would be absolutely pointless bringing Dan Ashworth to the football club if Farhad Moshiri was going to override him and say, no, I don't want to bring this player or that player or this player you've identified, I want to bring this name or this name or this name because they're a bigger name, they're more renowned in world football. So it's all well and good, being linked with somebody like Dan Ashworth, and it's all well and good employing Dan Ashworth, but it's will the owner allow him to do his job? And I would hope that after a statement like this, if somebody like Dan Ashworth was to come into the football club, the owner would allow them to do their job. But again, that falls on trust, and that falls on we'll have to wait and see, doesn't it? Because again, a lot of the things that the owner's saying in this statement is very much well, we'll wait and see. I disagree with the fact that the owner seems so adamant that the board is fine and there's no issues on the board, but I understand why he's coming out and saying it, because he's supporting his fellow board members, he's supporting his employees, and he's not going to come out and say, yeah, you're right, Bill Kenwright hasn't got a clue and he needs to be moved on, because why would he come out and do that? Farhad Moshiri has openly come out a number of times recently and backed Rafa Benitez and said that Rafa Benitez wouldn't be getting sacked anytime soon, and then he sacked him. So, in saying what he said, I understand it, and I understand the way in which business works and football works, in that even if he did have a massive issue with the way sort of the chairman is running the club, he wouldn't say it publicly. But I don't believe he does. I think he genuinely believes that Bill Kenwright and Denise Barrett-Baxendale are doing a great job, which is fine. Each to their own, I suppose. It's his football club. But as I said, a lot of Moshiri's put a lot of trust in in Evertonians with this statement to sort of trust that the strategic review that is taking place, and also his ownership and increasing his shares and stuff, trust that he is the right man for the job. Now, look, again, as I said, at the moment it's all words. It's all words, and words mean nothing without actions, and actions speak louder than words. And if Farhad Moshiri comes out in the next 12 months and proves that we can turn round to Keir Abachan and his other agent mates and say, no, we don't want this player that you've linked us with because he doesn't fit our system, or he doesn't fit the structure of the football club, then I'll sit back and go, fair play. He's learned, he's making the right decisions. If he doesn't, then we're still in the same position, aren't we, effectively, as a football club? As I said, there is positives to take from the statement in the words that Moshiri is saying, but I suppose the biggest problem is what a lot of Blues have sort of picked up on, is that at the moment it's all empty words. Farhad Moshiri has done nothing to prove that we should trust what he's saying. He's done nothing to prove that we should trust that we're going to bring in the right manager to suit this, the direction we're going as a club. Because we had a structure, we had the direction, we had the director of football model, and yes, we brought in Steve Walsh, and it didn't work, and we sacked him, and with Ronald Koeman, that's fine. We brought in Marcel Brands, and that didn't work, and maybe Marcel Brands should have been sacked before he was, but ultimately we brought in Marcel Brands, we give him a new contract. We had a summer where I would say his job at Everton was fairly secure. Okay, there might have been some Evertonians who weren't happy with him, but I would say his job was fairly secure last summer. And yet, Moshiri brought in a manager who went against the structure, and now the structure's been completely ripped up. So if the structure Moshiri wants is the director of football model, then firstly, he's got to let that director of football do their job and stop intervening and let them run the football club, because that's what they're here to do. But also, secondly, he's got to bring in a manager that, as he says, fits the structure. And it's all well and good saying, yeah, but Cam, he said that he's going to bring in a manager that fits the structure. That's fine. But Farhad Moshiri has said a number of things before and not done them. Farhad Moshiri had a structure in place, had a director of football in place, and brought in a manager who didn't fit the structure literally 6 months ago. So, as I said, it's all very much sort of words at the moment, and words that I don't think many Evertonians will trust, albeit it's good to hear from the owner. And as I said, for me, one of the most important things is that we've had that communication, regardless of the context. This email or interview or whatever it is could have said, I like pancakes and I eat them every day for my breakfast. Thank you all for listening, Farhad Moshiri. And I'd say, well, at least it's something. At least we've heard from the owner. So that is something that we really have to I think sort of, again, as I said, I don't really think applaud is the right word to use, because I don't particularly think he should be applauded for coming out and doing what he should be doing. But we have to, I suppose, understand that's a step forward, that's a step in the right direction, that's a move, in towards the right direction of the owner coming out and communicating with us. And the context of the letter, of the email, of the interview, whatever it is, again, isn't particularly surprising. Coming out and backing his fellow board members, coming out and saying the manager didn't work, didn't take any blame for the manager, but he's not going to say, I got that one massively wrong, because he's not that type. He doesn't seem like that type of person. It would have been nice for him to do that, because I think a lot of Evertonians would have put a lot more trust in this statement had he have come out and said, listen, I got this one wrong. We're now in the process of trying to bring in a manager who suits the structure. I think a lot of Blues would go, I believe that. But in not taking that responsibility and not taking that accountability, it's another example of an awful situation that has happened within Everton where no one seems to have taken accountability for. If Farhad Moshiri isn't to blame, then who's to blame for where we are in the league at the moment, for bringing in a divisive manager who didn't fit the structure, who was always going to fall on the sword? Again. Yeah, so as I said, I read it, and I'm not going to lie, I wasn't sitting there going, we're going to win the league in 3 years, this is amazing. I was more sitting there going, well, at least we've heard from the owner, at least we've had some communication. And when I then read the statement in itself, I sort of just thought, well, we'll wait and see. Actions speak louder than words. A lot of the things he's saying are the right things, i.e. a manager that fits the structure. And again, I understand people would say, yeah, but he's saying that, the chairman's great at his job and he's not, or this, that and the other. Well, he said Rafa Benitez was great at his job and then sacked him 2 weeks later. So, maybe he's just saying that because he feels the need to. But the reality is, doesn't matter what Farhad Moshiri says, although I can't stress enough how important communication is. It is important, but now the owner has to prove that what he's saying will be put in place. The owner has to prove what he's saying will be followed, and that he will in the future be able to turn around to certain people that might have an influence on him and say, no, I don't want this player, or I don't want that manager because they don't fit Everton, and prove that he wants what's best for Everton, and understand that if he is incapable of making them decisions for whatever reason, he gives that responsibility to someone else, like he did when we had the director of football, but he actually allows them to do his job at this time. None of this, we signed 5 players in the transfer window. 4 of them are the director of footballs, 1 of them are the owners. None of this, the owner picks the manager nonsense. If we're putting a director of football in place, we should never, if we employ, let's say for argument's sake, and this wouldn't happen because he's not going to leave Brighton at this point, but let's say for argument's sake we appointed Dan Ashworth now, today, we should be able to sit here in 12 months and every decision in terms of recruitment, managerial decision, style of play, system, we should be able to look in 8, 12, 18 months and go, well, that's nothing to do with Farhad Moshiri, because he's put the director of football in place and he's made the decision, so he's accountable, he's responsible. The owner is just there to put money into the club and to, communicate with us every now and then. He's not there to make decisions. We shouldn't be sitting here saying, well, okay, Dan Ashworth brought this player in, but then Moshiri brought this player in, or Moshiri wanted it, because that's never out of, you'll never run a successful business doing that. And that's what has happened with Everton in the past, and that's what needs to change. Anyway, let's get into some of the live comments before we finish up. I am cautious that Dunk will be doing his pre-game press conference in the next half an hour or so, I know, so we will be jumping off for that, and then we'll be back literally, about an hour or so after the press conference for our game preview to Everton's upcoming Premier League fixture against Aston Villa tomorrow afternoon. I am absolutely can't wait for it, if I'm being honest with you. Dunk back in the stands. Dunk back in the dugout. Yeah, I am absolutely over the moon for it. Let's get into some of the live comments then. Will says, hopefully he's learned something from these past 6 years of shite. Well, let's hope so, mate. Let's hope so. But at the moment, as I said, actions will suggest that, not words. Dan says, good afternoon, Cam. Good afternoon, my mate. C-Play says, hi, Cam. Hope this is us back on track. Well, let's hope so. Stephen says, can't wait to get my shift done and crack the cans open tomorrow morning before we go and get Goodison rocking again. Yes, mate, yes. Liam Munro says, afternoon, Cam. Did anyone else get that email off Moshiri? You think they were getting an interview? Where the note to Moshiri, stuff like this is much appreciated. Please keep it up. Yeah, as I said, I don't know if I have got an email, actually. I haven't checked my emails, but I've seen the statement on Everton's website, and, you're right. I read it, and I was like, wow, this is This is new. This is something we've never had before. Direct communication from the owner. What's this? Kevin says, afternoon, Cam, mate. Afternoon, Kevin. Joe says, preferring your thumbs now. Thank you very much. Stephen says, there's a chance Moshiri might get it right this time. There is a chance. There is a chance. But, as I said, he's got to make the right decisions. And as I've said previously, this is the biggest decision he'll ever make as the owner of Everton Football Club, in my opinion. Matty says, give Moshiri credit for talking to us. He needs to do this once a month from now on. Yeah, as I said, you know, it's a step forward. Dennis says, will he probably just cash out from the stock market? Well, let's talk about the shares then before we finish up, because I've just literally nearly forgotten. Everton also released a statement, again, not so long after the interview with Farhad Moshiri, which read that, bear with me 2 seconds, let me just get it up, which read that, apparently the Athletic are saying that Everton's pursuit of Newcastle United midfielder Sean Longstaff appears to have collapsed after the sacking of Rafa Benitez. There you go. Where is it? Farhad Moshiri has further affirmed his commitment to the club with a £100 million capital injection. Moshiri has acquired a further 33,333 shares in the club, taking his shareholding to 94.1%. And then the Liverpool Echo had an article saying Everton are set to amend the club's articles to remove the commitment to hold an AGM with shareholders. Instead, the club will hold regular events to engage with fans regularly. So that's interesting. Again, you know, wanting to cancel AGMs is maybe could be looked at a way of hiding, but it depends. I suppose it depends what those regular events with fans will be. If they're going to be, you know, events where the owner is there and speaks to fans, you know, that's fine. Or is it just going to be there where, you know, I don't know, a club representative turns up and says, well, I don't know because I'm not the owner. If that's the case, then it's pointless. But the shares, as I said, 33,333 shares, 94.1% now. Clearly showing his dedication to the club, clearly showing his commitment to the football club. And the capital injection, I believe, I've seen a couple of people saying it's not new money, so it's not necessarily, you know, £100 million that he's putting in out of his own pocket. That's completely fresh. It's a loan that has been, you know, basically turned into, equity. So it's money that was already there, debt I think that was already there, that's being turned into equity that we can now use for transfers or stadium stuff, etc. So it's a positive, and it does show the owner's commitment to the club, I suppose. But as I said, you know, £100 million is just a sixth of the money that we've spent over the last 5 years that has been completely wasted. So it doesn't matter whether there's £700 billion there. If we're going to spend it all and waste it all, then it's just further indication of the problem at the club. We've got to spend that money right. You know, for me, if there's an extra £100 million there and we've now had the shackles removed a little bit with financial fair play, then go out and bring in, you know, a centre midfielder and a centre-back this month before the transfer window ends, because that's what we desperately need. That's exactly what we desperately need. Go out and bring in, you know, the two players in the two key positions that we need to bring in to ultimately succeed and to, you know, to you know, improve the team and to guarantee that, you know, we will stay in the Premier League this season, which is exactly what we need, isn't it? It is ultimately the end goal. Love to see it, Sean, but think he maybe done, says Semi. Big dunk into the second hand TKO, says Mozer. Jose Mourinho, no, says Semi. Anthony says Moshiri can have my share if he sacks the chairman and CEO. Sean says we still need signings before the window closes. Nicola says if Mourinho in, that'll be a disaster. Another dinosaur coach. Yeah. Mark says everyone's talking about our spending, but if we keep going the way we have the last 2 summers, we're getting on the right track. Maybe. Big Dunk versus Gerrard, what do you think? I just hope Everton win, to be honest. Potter's tested positive, apparently. Well, wish Graham Potter a very speedy recovery. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to like the stream, subscribe to the channel if you're new, all of that good stuff. Will says, can't wait for tomorrow. Sound for another class team. Cam up the toffees. Let's get back to it tomorrow. Thank you very much, my mate. Jose Mourinho under consideration. He's already said no. Is right, says Semi. Doing a great job, Cam. Your channel is on fire, mate, says Kevin. Thank you very much, my mate. Semi says Big Dunk will get a tune out of these players even if it kills him. Let's hope so. Joe is going for, if Moshiri is serious, he should be investing in Ukrainian talent, especially Victor Tyzhgankov from Dynamo Kiev. I can't use it. Mikhailo Modric from Shakhtar, or Yuri Nater from Vorskla Poltava. Otherwise, Moshiri out. Interesting, Joe. Hit the like, lad, says Dennis. Yeah, if you could hit that like button, it would mean a great deal to me. Anyway, look, we are going to finish it up there then. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to let us know your thoughts on everything we've mentioned in the comment section down below. What did you think of the statements? Are you just relieved to hear some communication from the football club like I am? Were you happy with the content of it? Were you not happy? Let us know in the comments. Massive thanks to everybody for getting involved in the live comments. I really do appreciate it. If you're watching the YouTube video, don't forget to get involved in the YouTube comments as well. And yeah, we'll get involved with as many of them as we can. We will be back about an hour or so after Dunk's press conference, which is due to start in about 25 minutes with the game preview ahead of Everton's Premier League fixture against Aston Villa. So don't forget to join us for that one. If you have enjoyed this one, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new as well. And yeah, if you are interested in joining us again, we'll be back in a couple of hours or so. Big thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.